Hi everybody, I'm Jeff Apodaca and I'm running for governor of the state of New Mexico. I know you've seen some of these charts. Yes, in 2008, 2009, we had the worst economy hit our country. We are 4.5% unemployment. We now know we went to 6.7 and we know we're about 6.2. So yes, the economy's gotten a little bit better. But folks, we've still seen a negative job growth. We've lost over 146,000 jobs in the state of New Mexico. It's time we start investing back into ourselves. We have the highest unemployment in the country. We're ranked 50th in job creation, 50th in education. Now, we know that other states have investment funds and we have 23 billion. What we're talking about is investing $1 billion back into New Mexico, so we'd still invest 22 billion outside our state. And let me tell you something. My opponents, literally, it's them. They say, I don't know how these funds work. I know exactly how these funds work. And in fact, what we do with your monies is we invest it, guess where? Texas, Oklahoma, California, Wall Street. We actually invested into agriculture in other countries. And all we're talking about is investing 5%, just a little bit over $1 billion back into you. Now let me tell you about why my opponents say we can't do it. It's them that don't understand how these funds work. So let's look about that. Now we know the State Investment Council and the Finance Authority manage our money. And the State Investment Council, the governor actually chairs. There's 11 board members. As your governor, I'll promise you that I'll appoint a board and work with the established board to make sure we're investing just 5% of our 23 billion back in the state of New Mexico. Now let me tell you, constitutionally, folks, we can do this. So I'm not talking about taking the money out, I'm not talking about raiding the money. You've never heard me say take, raid, or spend. What we're talking about is investing. And if you look at our state constitution at Article 12, Section 7, Paragraph B, the funds shall be invested by the state investment officer in accordance to the policy regulated by the State Investment Council. Now the governor and we put a board together to do that. Paragraph C, in making the investments, the state investment officer under the supervision of the State Investment Council shall invest and manage those funds in accordance to the Uniform Prudent Investment Act. What does that mean? That really means what we can't do is we can't invest more than 65% into stocks. We can't hold on to our money more than 10% into our banks. We literally, it doesn't say where we can invest it. We choose to invest it into other states because we make an 8% return on our monies. Now, the $1 billion we're going to invest in New Mexico, we're going to make a return on that because we're going to invest it into New Mexico industries, New Mexico technologies. When we have done this, the State Investment Council has literally seen a 10% return on our investments. So as your governor, we're going to lead New Mexico by investing into ourselves. And any funds we make from those investments, in addition to the funds and all earnings, including interest, dividends, capital gains of our investments, shall be credited back to the fund. And that's what we're talking about. So I want you to look at this. Colorado, 2.1% unemployment. They have $550 million investment funds. California, 6th largest economy in the world. And guess what? They have $8 billion. New Mexico, highest unemployment in the country. We've lost over 146,000 jobs in the last 10 years. 25% of New Mexicans, 25%, that's 500 million, live below the poverty line. Over 1 million New Mexicans, half our population, live on some type of government assistance, and we sit on $23 billion and invest everything outside our state, and we grow those funds. So as your governor, I'm going to invest into you. Now, the State Investment Council and Steve Moise and the board has done a great job. They've literally grown our funds from $14 billion to $23 billion in the last 10 years. Since we announced, they've grown them almost $2 billion. Let me show you their way versus our way. The State Investment Council has done a great job. Literally, their average is about 8.6% return. That's fantastic, and we applaud them. But let me tell you their old way. By investing just on an annual basis, by investing our $23 billion outside our state at 8.6% return, let's say we continue that growth, we're going to see 24.98, almost $25 billion of investments back into these funds. And that's great. And then we take about $1 billion of those funds and we put them in our schools. So my opponents say we use this money to put into our schools. That's absolutely correct. And we take about $1 billion of that. So each year we have about 23.98 or $24 billion if we do it the old way. Now let's look at Team Apple. If we took $22 billion and continue investing it outside our state like we're doing right now and continue getting the same interest rate, we're talking about $23.9 billion. Now we're investing $1 billion less, so it's less. But if we invest in New Mexico $1 billion that we're talking about into small business, into our technologies, into infrastructure, into our small businesses and technologies, You're talking at a 2.5% return. We're going to generate $1,025,000,000. So all in, we're talking about $24.25 billion, a little bit less than what we'd be getting outside our state, absolutely. And then the schools would still get their $1 billion on average. So that would still leave us with $23.925 billion. Yes, a little bit less. But as we invest in New Mexico, and even we have a plan to invest to create 225,000 new jobs. But even if we just created 100,000 new jobs at the same time, which we believe we can, we would generate over $400 million of new tax revenues for our state. So by doing this, we'd actually gain 24, and then you take the billion out, you would actually gain $24.325 billion. You would actually net out, our state would literally net out $375 million more a year. Now folks, we're not even talking about different opportunities for additional tax revenues for our state. We're just talking about if we took our $1 billion of our $23 billion and invested into you, we would then create 100,000 new jobs, still pay $1 billion for our schools, and literally net $375 million in the state of New Mexico. It's time you get a governor to tell you what we can do, not what we can't do. My opponents want to continue going down the old way. My opponents are okay with 25% or 500,000 New Mexicans living in poverty. My opponents are okay that 50% of you live on some type of government assistance. I'm not. I think we need to invest into us and create jobs for you and create new tax revenues. You can see we can grow more monies. Constitutionally, we can do it. So I'm not going to spend your money. I'm not going to take your money. I'm not going to take your money out. We're going to invest your money into you, into New Mexico. I can do it constitutionally. We just have to pay the funds back, and we will with your investments. So let me tell you, folks, this is it. This is a moment for New Mexico. You could continue to elect my opponents and do the same thing, the Band-Aid approach, the same thing over and over and stay 50th. Or you can invest into a new guy who knows politics, who will invest into you and create 225,000 new jobs, who will net literally more tax revenue for you in our state for our schools, that'll give state employees a 3% raise every year, not every 10 years, and it'll give our teachers and educators a 3% raise every year and raise their salaries by 10 to 12% immediately. We're going to move 8% of PED's budget back into the classroom and educate our kids and create pathways for our kids. Because as we create more jobs, our children need better opportunities. So what if? What if you invest into a new guy that's going to invest into you and turn New Mexico around? This June 5th and early voting starts this week. I ask you for your vote and for your support.